Welcome everyone to this 30-minute chat that we'll be having in the next couple of minutes on protecting utility field workers through aerial data collection. My name is Ross Malme. I'm a partner with an energy consulting company called Skipping Stone in Atlanta, Georgia, although the background behind me, courtesy Ellen, is obviously not Atlanta. It is the Canadian Rocky Mountains. For this conversation that we'll be having, your mics will be muted. If you have questions, there is a chat box at the bottom of the Zoom page that you can put your questions in there. We'll try to get to those at the end. We also will be recording this session. So if you want to get either a copy of the recording, you can email us, or it'll be streaming off of the clearGRID website. As I said, my name is Ross Malme, a consultant with Skipping Stone in Atlanta. My background, actually, I'm the inventor of the one of the first automatic meter reading systems in the planet. Actually, the one that Ellen is reading in Alberta as we speak. Also started up one of the first electricity demand response companies in the US. And I'll be joined by Ellen Christopherson, the CEO of clearGRID, and Kris Topp with ATCO, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it. Well, my background is a combination of areas, aviation, both on the unmanned, the drone side of things, as well as manned aviation side. I have a master's in engineering, and I worked in the utility industry for a number of years in Europe, bringing all of this together in clearGRID.
And Kris?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ross. So my name is Kris Topp. I'm a service operations manager for Calgary and Edmonton with the natural gas division with ATCO. About 17 years now with ATCO, starting actually in walking the beat on meter reading. I've been through construction, operations, and the service world, also gas fitter by trade. So yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Well, thanks for joining us. To get started here, Ellen, what challenges for utilities is clearGRID addressing?
clearGRID really focuses on the use of technologies and remote data collection to help utilities. Really, the aim is to help decrease manual activities and increase efficiencies. And of course, this impacts a number of different aspects of the business. The biggest one that we really hone in on is the safety side of things. You know, not having to have a worker out in a vehicle behind a windshield, not needing someone to be in a remote, potentially dangerous area. And of course, important nowadays, not to have them in a crowded area or in close proximity to others. So a lot of our focus comes in on helping with helping increase safety. Another aspect is on decreasing operating costs. It's a big driver for a lot of utilities to continuously push that down as much as possible. And so we can impact them in several different ways. Obviously, the direct operating costs when you introduce technology can go down, but also by increasing efficiency, data quality, reducing human errors, that can help bring down the costs as well. And of course, striving to use technology anywhere that we can decrease emissions. Those are the main areas.
Kris, can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that ATCO faced with ground-based meter reading, with like weather, traffic, windshield time, and so forth?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Ross. And all of those, actually. So yeah, we've had a bit of a journey, of course, like most walked the routes, and then we went into driving routes. But there was lots. Alberta is a pretty vast climate and lots of different types of topography in different areas. So lots of drive time, lots of windshield time. Of course, when that is, we put on about 700,000 kilometers a year, just reading meters. So that was a big challenge. And then of course, getting the vehicles off the road and helping with that, it's been good.
Thanks. Obviously we are all sequestered in place here during this time with the virus. Can you talk a little bit about how COVID-19 is affecting your customers and utilities?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a challenging time and a very different time. And I think for utilities, especially being classified as an essential service, being required to keep everyone's lights on and the heats on, you know, but at the same time not being able to work in the same manner as normal. So having to adapt and change. I think that's probably it's a challenging time, and there's a lot of adaptation that has to happen. I think really the impact is that utilities are being forced to look outside the box and look at some innovative ways that you can carry on providing an essential service and 24/7 to your customers. As for clearGRID, really our business is built around remote operations, and so you know, we're actually able to maintain about 4,500 feet of social distancing, and allows us to keep operating our pilots. They operate a single pilot, but they're always remotely monitored. Same with any of our staff on the ground. You know, the remote monitoring is really a key for our business.
And Kris, how's COVID-19 affecting ATCO?
Lots of challenges, of course, and we have some changes in protocols and procedures for sure. So to Ellen's point, we are a utility and we want to keep the lights on and gas flowing, especially the gas flowing on my side of things. We have stopped a lot of non-essential work going into customers' homes, but still trying to ensure that all emergency work is complete and any kind of essential items. So, and we can only do a 2 meter social distancing, but we've been doing that with full RP.
Well, Ellen, I'm fascinated. How did you ever think about getting into the aerial data collection business, and kind of what's your vision for where the company goes from here?
Really, it's a combination of my background there, you know, being aviation, engineering, and utilities side of things. That, you know, that's a pretty broad combination. It's allowed me to identify some areas that utilities could have some increased efficiency in, and so bringing those passions together to help that. You know, for a lot of this, it's a technology. We mainly use an aerial-based platform. But behind that, we have an amazing team of engineers, developers, and we really specialize on radio frequency, so RF data collection. But as we grow and as I see this in the future, I really see that becoming a broader based platform that can deliver services to multiple sides of the utility business and cover off a lot of aspects in one pass, so to say.
And what aerial data collection services are you offering today?
Yeah, we currently have 3 different service lines. Each of them do have proprietary technology. First one is AeroRead, which is our service for airborne meter data collection. So this is for electric, gas, and water smart meters, using state-of-the-art sensors and aircraft to collect the information and deliver it into billing systems. The next one is AeroFlow. This is an offering for pipeline operators. It allows us to monitor their cathodic protection system, which is basically the anti-corrosion system for pipelines. We can do that from the air, so not having to have any boots on the ground in any kind of hazardous or remote areas. Third service line is Aero. This is our automated right-of-way management solution. So it allows us to capture vegetation, component information, identify critical assets, and really automate the cutting and clearing analysis side of it. All of that can be brought together in a maintenance plan that is really optimized based on individual utility business needs.
Okay. So let's focus on the meter reading application, and we can maybe talk about the other services at another webinar. Which utilities are using these services, and how are they using them?
Absolutely. We've got about a dozen utilities currently using clearGRID services. For us, ATCO Gas being one of them. We cover the entire province of Alberta every month, collecting over 1.2 million meters. We are looking to be operating for an electric utility with over 1.5 million meters later this year. And of course, we're active in the US with several large utilities for demonstration projects here throughout 2020.
Okay. So the meters that you service, are you servicing reading both in high density areas like Edmonton and Calgary, and also the rural areas as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, our technology is really developed for a variety of geographies and densities. So from Boston city center to Rocky Mountains. You know, any of those areas, of course, there is the nuance that we do need the radio frequency signal to get out of the building to be able to pick it up. So there are some installations where we do have some of those challenges, but they're typically pretty far and few between. And of course, we do have some technology solutions that can help with that side of things. Maybe Kris can speak more to the collection side of it too.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, so ATCO gas is about 1.2 million, as Ellen discussed, in the high density areas of Calgary and Edmonton. So we do have some challenges, of course, with basements and parking garage and meter enclosures. It's not too bad though, and they kind of seem to rotate. So I don't know if monthly we don't seem to have the same ones, so which is good. If we can't get those reads, we do send someone out to go get that manually. But typically, and for the most part, very happy with the success. And we're at about 99.5% collection every month. So extremely happy with those numbers.
So Ellen, I'm really curious about this, you know, to get the kind of accuracy that and reliability that Kris is talking about. How do you design these routes? How do you, and is it all art or is it science?
There's a little bit of both in there. We rely heavily on the science side of it though. And what we have is a proprietary solution that we actually can record every time we hear a meter, where we are in time and space. We record the signal strength of that meter. And what that allows us to do is eventually actually create a 3D of where we need to fly to be able to collect the meters and do that in the most efficient manner. So we are able to steadily get better in our collection over time. And so the routes are really designed off of that information.
So are you able to read, you know, different manufacturers, different frequencies, and which ones do you support today?
Absolutely. We've got a platform that's really built as a meter manufacturer agnostic platform. And so it allows us to support both AMR and AMI systems. So for AMR, we can completely be a complete substitute for driving. For AMI, we're typically a supplementary system, so basically a roaming node for any of the areas that can be hard to read or maybe too expensive to extend that network. Within those systems, we currently support Itron, Trilliant, Neptune, and Mueller systems. And all those adjustments for any of that kind of stuff is based on our end, so the utility doesn't need to make any adjustments to on their end. Yeah, those are the systems we support.
Okay, and how do you handle the integration? Maybe Kris could talk to this of, you know, how do you handle the data between the utility and your reading platforms?
Yeah, well, as far as ATCO goes, I can only really speak with the interaction with the Itron 100G and the 100GR Hertz, as that's our products that we use for collecting meter reads. So and then I do know clearGRID's of course capable of interacting with all Itron products and obtaining the high percentage read that we have, which is well above our AUC metric, which is very, very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, and as for the integration side of it, we've got on our tech team we're able to support any kind of integration. So really depends on what works best for the utility. Some of them were into the meter data management system, others into the billing system. Whatever we can, whatever works best for them. Kris, do you want to speak on the ATCO side for the integration?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so we utilize a work management system that's based on a Maximal platform to manage our routes. The route data is then transferred into the Itron field collection system, so FCS. From FCS, we have a secure data transfer process on an IBM platform to send the route collection files over to clearGRID, where they load to their mobile collector and for collection. Then, of course, post collection, that's all reversed.
Okay. And Ellen, what have you got in the drawing board in terms of where you go from here, the other manufacturers and systems?
Absolutely. Really, our drawing board is client based. So what's most important for our clients is it gets bumped up in priority. Currently on the drawing board, though, is integration with Census, Ulster, and Declara systems. Now, again, based on the needs of clients, that can change. I mean, our RF technology is adaptable to a variety of sensors, including temperature, pressure, whatever else we may want to integrate with.
Okay. My experience with these systems is that you had to get reasonably close to these meters within maybe a few blocks to be able to read them. What kind of altitude do you operate at?
Yeah, I mean, our system is built to operate really between 2,000 and 10,000 feet. And so our operations are typically at about 4,500 feet, which is how we can maintain our socially acceptable distance. And that involves a lot of coordination for us with the aviation authorities, airspace facilitators. We cover a lot of ground, as you said before, but we're actually able to operate, within military airspace, international airports, even restricted airspace like active wildfire zones. We've got processes and procedures in place to work with the airspace controllers and be flexible for them, but also because our technology is built with such a wide range of heights there, we're able to still operate within their parameters and meet our clients' needs. Okay,
and when you I understand that you call the routes, you call them missions. How do you plan those, and how do you do it the most efficiently?
Yeah, we do call them missions. So missions are really, a lot of them are planned out beforehand as part of the onboarding process with our clients, so we all understand what that's going to look like. Once we get into the actual operations side, we schedule our missions within an agreed-upon collection window, and that allows us to accommodate for things like weather. Every one of our missions is monitored in real time by an air traffic controller. You can actually see on the slide here some of the visuals that they have access to, so they can see where all the meters are. They can monitor the mission progress. They can see where all the planes are and where they've been, and it allows them to actually be the co-pilot on the ground for the pilots, but also be the mission specialist who's in charge of the technology. So the pilots there to fly. Our mission specialist is the one that controls all of the technology, and that's done remotely from the ground.
Okay. Kris, what we're dealing with here is effectively the cash register for the utility. I can only imagine that there were quite a number of stakeholders that you had both internally and externally that you had to convince to turn the keys to your cash register over to Ellen and her team. Can you talk about that process?
Yeah, it was very well received from internally. Worked with Ellen's team a couple months beforehand. We're able to change our collection points and our frequency, and kind of work around other retailers and the AUC to ensure that when we did make the change, that it was seamless. We got very good feedback from both of our customers and AUC on how we handled that, and we handled it because of what Ellen's team does and continues to improve. She talks about her missions. We get a lot of good feedback from clearGRID to say, hey, can we maybe do a route a bit differently, because they're always continuously optimizing those routes. So it's very beneficial for us and our customers. And to your point, Ross, we like, as a utility, we definitely like to make sure those meters are spinning accurately and correctly, and that's a good fund for us.
Okay, thanks. Ellen, can you talk a little bit about the value proposition for utilities to use clearGRID? Is there a lot of capital involved? Is there what's the onboarding process, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So one of the benefits for our technology is that we don't require investment in additional assets once the smart meter is in place. So that infrastructure, there's no additional infrastructure investment required. Really, the value proposition, we go back to the benefits and the challenges that we're trying to help utilities with. So decreasing that O&M, increasing the safety is a big one, and of course, getting the guys out of the field and into more useful areas of the business anywhere we can. Decreasing carbon emissions, that kind of thing is really the big value propositions for us. The onboarding process itself, that can vary. If we're already operating in a region, that can really be same day onboarding. Send us the files instead of the drivers. The planes can handle that. For new areas or new regions we're setting up in, as Kris mentioned there, it's about a 2 to 3 month onboarding process. That allows us to get the aircraft or the assets deployed, training for that region, but it also allows us to work with the utility on anything requiring for scheduling, completing that data integration, and of course end-to-end testing to make sure it all works before I go live.
Okay. I guess this question is both for Ellen and Kris. I've been on a couple of conference calls with utilities, and this coronavirus is causing a lot of disruption in terms of services that the utilities are providing. I know that Con Ed, for example, is on a call I was on. I was hearing they were up over a couple hundred cases and several deaths included in that. And I was on a call with a PUD in Washington State, Snohomish, that they've actually pulled their meter reading folks out of the field. What's your experience with this, Kris? Is this an enhancement in safety and for your people?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as the meter reading piece, like I think I mentioned before, we decreased our driving about 700,000 kilometers a year, which is instrumental. Some operational savings, of course, with that. But like even simple as our employees before would have to go into backyards potentially to get a meter read or what have you. Even when, let's say, we do meter exchanges or any kind of operational work, we really rely on the data that clearGRID collects monthly. So we don't have to spend as much time. If we do have to spend any time, it's in and out on right now with again proper RP, but the meter reading piece itself has taken a lot of people out of the field doing meter reading and repurposed into other areas in the organization, which has been very helpful and timely when we have a lot of capital programs that we can reallocate those resources to those programs. Okay,
thanks. Ellen, I'm going to throw a question here that we've gotten from the field on kind of scalability. Maybe could you talk a little bit about what the cost is to deploy the system and how scalable you are?
Absolutely. So the scalability part for us, no problems there. Our technology is really built for massive numbers of data. I mean, even collecting a million reads, that actually involves for us about 40 or 50 million signals that we process. We're already up at quite a significant scale and built to go as far as we need beyond that. As for cost, the golden question, of course, really for us, pricing is very dependent on a number of factors. So meter density, quantities, service territory, route schedules, all those are very important factors for us. So what we do is we ask for a little bit of information from a utility, and then we use proprietary technology to simulate what those emissions would look like. So we don't even have to leave the ground. With that information, it gives us a really good idea of what the costs are going to look like, and so we can present that at that time. As we said before, there's no upfront capital cost required once the smart meters are in place.
But so you don't necessarily have any kind of minimum number of meters that you'd utilize?
Minimum number for us, I mean, it really depends on the region and where we're going to be. But no, we don't really have a minimum number.
Okay. And if somebody is interested in actually seeing this live and a demonstration, what's the process to get a demo and what kind of data do you need to have from the utility?
Absolutely. So actually very similar data to being able to run the simulation. We need to really understand what the current collection system looks like. So really understanding what the meter makes and models are, where the meter locations are, the types of reads, and understanding what the current schedule looks like, the route schedule. Those are once we can get that information in, we can plan out where we're going to do the demo. And after that, it's really on us. We can take care of the rest, get a team deployed out into the area to fly the mission. Okay.
And then once a successful demo has been done and a business case has been developed, and you got all the T's and C's completed, how quickly can you be in the field and be operational?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to that onboarding process, right? We're about that 2 to 3 months to deploy. A lot of that is in conjunction, I mean, with the utility. I mean, Kris, we had quite a bit of back and forth there to make sure that any of the stakeholders were satisfied through that process, and really getting those schedules set, data integrated, and end-to-end testing. As I said, we like to make sure that we run through the full thing before we go live on it, but really fairly straightforward and a quick process that we can run through to get that on board.
Okay. Here's another question that's come in. Are you able to collect hourly data from meters?
Yeah, we actually have the technology to collect a wide variety of data. So we can do the real-time reads, which is what we do for Kris. But we also have customers that we collect daily, we collect hourly. We've done some, with remote disconnects, and so there's lots of different types we can do. Clock resets, depending on what kind of read tape type is needed. Our integration team can take a look at that, and if we don't already have it, we can also give an estimate of what it's going to take for us to integrate that into our.
Another question here that's come in, and maybe this is something that both you and Kris could deal with. Obviously, in this business, cybersecurity is a really big issue. And how do you assure that the data that you're collecting is secure, and that customers' privacy is being maintained?
Yeah, absolutely, very important topic. And some of our technical team actually originates from the security industry, so we do have expertise in that area. And what we do is we look at each utility's individual requirements for security to be able to accommodate that. Sometimes there's some slight differences between them, but we also have some industry standards that we maintain them as minimums, and then anything that we can do to help increase that security, and anything that the utility needs individually, will accommodate that.
Okay. And one other question here: when you do have the occasional misread, how do you deal with that? How does the utility deal with that?
Absolutely. I mean, maybe Kris can speak better to that on how that's dealt with.
Yeah. So we we send someone out just to verify or to get that read, and then we work with Ellen's team to try to see if there's a solution that we don't have to continue to do that. And like I said, we're at 99.5% of our 1.2 million. So we do have some, of course, but we deploy an employee out, get that read, work with Ellen's team, and if there's any technologies or suggestions or route optimization that they can suggest, then we kind of go down that road and see. And it's been very good. Typically, we don't have any long-term estimates past 3 months. So which is very is a good thing, is a bit of a metric that we try to follow as ATCO, as well as to get an accurate read in a timely manner. Okay.
Well, we're about coming up to the bottom of the hour here, so I want to thank both of our panelists here for their participation. If we didn't get to your question on the live here, we will get back to you via email or give you a call. And I want to thank everybody for their time, and stay safe, and sequester on. Thank you.
Thanks, Kris. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you very much.